To sew a diagonal seam, I put the strips right sides together at a 90-degree angle. The line that I sew on is a 45-degree angle. Before I take this over to my sewing machine, I like to mark where that 45-degree diagonal line is. So one way to do that is to take your ruler and start in this corner and mark a line that goes to this point where the binding underneath meets. So I will put this here and line that up and then mark. I find that kind of difficult because sometimes that piece underneath is hard to see. So almost all of these rotary mats have a 45-degree line running through it. Here's one, and then if you look over here, here's another line. So let me take this. You'll notice here in this corner we have a 45-degree line running through. So I can lay this down in the corner, make sure it's all lined up with everything, and then I can take my ruler, put it alongside of that line, and mark that. Perhaps the easiest way to mark that line is to take your strip and this section right here, this edge, you want to turn and fold it so that it lines up exactly even with this edge, and then press that line and you will have a 45-degree line pressed, and you can just follow that when you take it over to the sewing machine. So I'll need to sew all 4 of my strips of binding together into one long strip in this manner. Before I take my binding strip over to be pressed, I like to trim one of the ends off at a 45-degree angle. So I can do this a number of ways. I can line it up on my mat, or if I don't have a mat, I can fold it like I showed you and then draw that line and trim. Or I can take my rotary ruler. My rotary ruler has a 45-degree line on it. It also has 60 degrees and 30 degrees, but I'm not worried about those. I just want to see that 45-degree line. It could be in a number of places. It could be in the corner or somewhere you'll find that 45-degree line. And I like to take that line and line it up with the edge of my binding. I make sure that there's extra here. I don't want to line it up like this where the piece doesn't go all the way to the edge. So I line this up on the edge, take my rotary cutter and cut. And now I have a piece of binding with a 45-degree angle on the edge. This makes it easier to join the ends when I'm finished putting the binding all the way around my quilt.